episode of Jocelyn Hart's Boy Bands. This episode, I will be talking about day 3 of the 6th Backstreet Boys cruise that happened in May 2018. Day 3 of the cruise was May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo, and the first thing that happened that day was we ported in Nassau, Bahamas. Originally, we were supposed to port in Grand Turk in the Turks and Caicos. However, due to severe thunderstorms there, the captain decided to reroute us to Nassau. I've been to Nassau once before on the second Backstreet Boys cruise when there was a beach party there. So this time, my friends and I had an opportunity to explore some parts of Nassau. We woke up around 10:30 a.m. We were able to sleep in a bit, and then we disembarked the boat and walked through Nassau. We visited the Queen's Staircase, which was named after Queen Victoria, who ruled the UK and Ireland from 1837 to 1901. And after we climbed the stairs, which according to Wikipedia has 66 steps, we then visited Fort Finn Castle and the water tower there. So a bit of history about the Queen's Staircase. The slaves that lived there, they carved the staircase, and as if I can remember correctly, as punishment, the slaves had to climb up the stairs. I thought climbing the stairs would be difficult. However, for me it wasn't so bad. The angle of the stairs was not steep, so I didn't feel so tired after climbing up. And then after we visited that area, we walked back to where the touristy stuff was around Nassau. There's a lot of local shops, places to eat, places to drink. I did a little souvenir shopping for my coworkers and my parents, and I did some shopping for myself. I have this thing where if I can find souvenirs with my name on it, I will buy it. And I found a shot glass that had my name on it. It says Jocelyn's Bar and it says Nassau, Bahamas. After shopping, my friends and I then walked near where the different cruise ships are docked. A travel tip for people out there is there are locals who are selling freshwater shells for $5. One of my friends bought the shell, and we learned that the cruise ships don't allow fresh shells back on the boat. So if you are planning to go to somewhere tropical like the Bahamas and are tempted to buy a fresh shell or find one on the beach, just be aware that the security, when embarking back onto the boat, will catch it and will confiscate it. My friends decided to buy some coconuts to drink. There was a little stand near there. My parents buy coconuts all the time from our local grocery store, so I passed on buying one because I feel I can get one at home. So after we explore Nassau and then board the boat, we have some time to relax before the next event, which is Cinco de Howie. We have lunch in the Lido buffet, and after lunch, me and my friends, we decide to go on the water slide. I've been on 6 Backstreet Boys cruises and 1 New Kids cruise, and I've never been on any of the water slides. there's usually no time to go, but this time we had time, so after we ate lunch, we went to the slide. There were two different slides. One was a straight water slide that was 50 feet long, and the other one was longer. I don't know the exact measurement of it, but if you wanted to go down it, you had to climb up a lot of stairs to get to the top, and it was tubed and curved. My friend Jamie's husband, Ken, he went on that one and he told us it wasn't comfortable. So I passed on doing that one and opted to do the straight water slide instead. I went on it 3 times with my friend Jen. I haven't been on a slide in years, so I was a bit nervous. But after doing it the first time, I wanted to do it again and again. So after the slides, we go to the Lido deck where there are already a lot of fans standing in front of the stage for Cinco de Howie. My friends and I find spots along the benches on the side of the pool. Since there's still time until Howie's event, Jen and I get in the pool because we're still in our bathing suits from when we went down the water slide. I end up staying in the pool for most of the event because I was comfortable. It was very relaxing to be floating in the pool while listening to Cinco de Howie happen. I couldn't see anything, but I heard most of it. So Howie arrived on time and the event started on time, so there was no BSB time for him that day. Some of my friends were chosen for the event. My friends Erica, Marissa, and Kelly were chosen because it was a Cinco de Mayo themed event. The games were all drinking games. Near the end of the event, Howie called for people to come on stage so he could take selfies. I tried to haul my butt to the stage when he announced that, but I didn't make it in time and the line was cut off. After Howie's event, my friends and I go back to our cabins to change and get ready for dinner in the dining room. I was feeling sleepy, so I wanted to take a nap. I take off my wet bathing suit, put on my shorts and my larger than life shirt from Vegas and lie down. I was about to close my eyes when I had the urge to check my phone, despite the Wi Fi sucking very much on the boat. I get a message to go to the Lido dining room because Nick was there. Since I wasn't sure how long Nick would be there, I slip on my flip flops and go. I was amused at myself because I was not wearing any underwear. I apologize if that's TMI. I go to the Lido dining room and there is a huge line. I see Nick at the end of it and he's taking selfies and pictures. I hop in line with my friends, but I wasn't hopeful I'd get to him. I'm about 20 people away when Nick starts to walk away and my stomach drops because I was close but not close enough. When he walks by, he sees me and he says, "Uh-oh." I don't even know how to interpret what that means coming from him. The people in front of me don't move. They tell us that Nick said he was going to the bathroom and he would be back. My friends and I were torn between believing him and not. He has a history of saying he'd be back and he never comes back. I decided to stay and give him a few minutes. I noticed some people left and some stayed. A few minutes later, behind me, I hear fans clapping and cheering, and I look back and I see Nick is walking back, and he had this expression on his face like, "See, I told you I wasn't lying." When it comes to Nick, my mind goes blank when I'm near him. I'm so focused on getting my picture with him and making sure I have the right pose that I always fail to try and have some sort of conversation with him. Before I left for my trip, one of my managers at work tells me to snog Nick. For those not in tune with British slang, snog means kiss. Because I didn't want the profile of my face in the picture, I decided I would ask Nick to kiss me instead. When it's my turn, I give Nick a big hug. I'm aware of the fact that I'm not wearing a bra and my boobs are pressing up against him. We go to pose for a picture. I tell him I want a normal one first, which we do. Then I say I want a kiss. I was expecting his lips to lightly press on my cheek for about 2 seconds, and then he'd be done. So he presses his lips onto my right cheek, and I smile. Then he starts to push his lips harder and harder. And after the picture is done, I can still feel him pushing, and it gets to the point where I'm losing my balance. But he stops before that fully happens. If he kisses cheeks hard like that, I can only imagine how he kisses other places. It doesn't strike me until much later that I should have tried to say something to him or try to talk to him. I was so into wanting that kiss that after I got it, my brain was busy processing the touch of his lips. When I looked at the picture, I saw that he was really into the kiss and that his eyes were closed. I thought that he would have his eyes open and try to look at the camera. I'm glad he gave the kiss his all and that his eyes were closed, because there's a saying that if a guy kisses you and his eyes are closed, it means he's really into you. Once my friends and I are done with our impromptu meet and greet with Nick, we see that it's nearly 8 p.m. I still needed to shower and change for the concert happening at 9:30 p.m. and get ready for White Night, aka the Millennium deck party. There was no time to have dinner in the dining room, so I go back to my cabin to shower and get ready. Then I go to the Lido dining room buffet with my friend Jen. I wasn't impressed with the food. I mostly ate the egg rolls that were being served. Then we go to the lounge where the concert is happening after we're done eating. I'm going to get this out of the way because I don't want to focus on the negative, but I thought it was annoying that some fans snuck to the front row and were able to sit to my right during the concert. At first, 3 girls were kicked out, but 1 successfully stayed. I really wanted to snitch on her, but it was really hard to find a person working for Rose Tours, and by the time I wanted to do something about it, the show was starting and I didn't want to miss anything. The concert was dubbed Storytellers. When the itinerary came out, I remember some fans were freaking out that there was no concert, and I thought that was strange. When I read the itinerary and saw Storytellers, I immediately knew that was the concert, because in the past, VH1 had a show called Storytellers where artists would perform acoustic versions of their songs and tell stories. I was pleasantly surprised when BSB started the first song, which was I Wanna Be With You from their first album ever. I thought the show would be like the European cruise where it was 100% acoustic with just guitar players and them sitting down and singing. The vibe this time was more upbeat than the European cruise, and they sang along to instrumental tracks and informally danced to upbeat songs and then sat down for the slower songs. I preferred this concert to the European cruise because of the mix of upbeat and slower songs. They also perform songs they haven't performed in years, and some songs they performed for the first time with Kevin. I was excited to hear and see songs like That's the Way I Like It, Climbing the Walls, and Inconsolable. At one point, Kevin explained the 3-word story to the other Backstreet Boys. I've never laughed so hard at a BSB concert before. The other boys then started to say 3 words. Then after they sang a part of that song, Brian then started to sing a part of the song they got from Andy Grammer called Passionate. And it was actually a good reminder to me of how the song went. And I'm really glad I caught that on video. And I'm really hoping and praying it makes the future BSB album. There was one point at the show where AJ walked by me and saw me and he mouthed, "I love you" to me, which I thought was so random, but I'll accept it. After Backstreet sings "Quit Playing Games," Brian jokingly says that the monitor on stage that is facing them says, "Brian, talk," which means it's a break between songs and it's his turn to tell a story. After watching my video of this moment, I kept my phone's camera focused on Nick. As Brian is talking, Nick is looking at someone off stage. He then waves his palm in front of his face, and from reading his lips, he says, "Towel." Then someone tosses him a towel and he wipes his face with it. Brian's story is about recording "Quit Playing Games." He said it was recorded around 3:30 a.m. in the morning to 5:30 a.m. He says that Max Martin, the person who has written and produced many of Backstreet Boys' hits, along with other artists like Britney Spears, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift. He says Max asked him to go upstairs and get someone else. Brian said everyone was sleeping except Kevin. And Kevin comments and says he's always awake at that time of the night and that he's a night owl, which adds to the list of things I have in common with Kevin because I too am a night owl. Then Nick says to tell why there are two versions of those songs. So let me digress for a moment that back in 1997, when I got my first Backstreet Boys CD, it took me a while to realize that some of the songs on the CD I had were different than the versions that were playing on the radio. So like on my CD, "Quit Playing Games" has Brian singing the first two verses, and "As Long as You Love Me" on my CD sounds different than the radio version. Brian then explains while filming the "Quit Playing Games" music video, the record company executives wanted Nick to sing the second verse so that there would be multiple voices on the track. And this is my personal theory. They probably wanted Nick on the song to attract more fans to the group. AJ then made a comment saying he was able to keep his bridge part, which is the part that made me a Backstreet Boys fan in the first place. Then Brian continues to segue into introing the next song, which is "Climbing the Walls" off the Never Gone album. He said it was written for the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack. Then Nick chimes in and says that he's a huge rock fan and that the song was originally written for Audioslave and that when Max Martin wrote it, he imagined Chris Cornell's voice singing it. After "Climbing the Walls, they perform "Inconsolable," which surprises me since they haven't performed that song in years. And it was my first time seeing and hearing it with Kevin. Then after the song, Nick says to someone off stage to not play the next song. He talks about how when Kevin was gone, Backstreet was inconsolable. And he's trying to have a serious moment, and AJ makes a remark to Nick saying that was a lot of sweat you just threw onto the floor. Then Nick grabs the towel he had earlier and wipes his face. And then he asks Brian, what is he wearing? And Brian says, suede. And Nick says that's why he's sweating. And then he said that he was having a real moment and that they were effing it up. Then Kevin said that Nick was going too deep, so that's why they were trying to deflect it with comedy. Then Nick said no, it's because Kevin didn't want to cry. And Kevin jokingly said, I don't cry. So Nick continues to talk about Kevin and says that Backstreet needed him and the fans needed him. And while Nick is saying that, that's when AJ went over to Kevin and sat on his lap like a child. Kevin then said he missed Backstreet and the fans too. He said he missed the locker room, which I think he means he missed that before or after doing an event. He missed the conversations that they would have. He missed the camaraderie too, because they all share something together that no one else will ever understand. He also says that he did not miss the record label and the schedule. And then Kevin remarked, "This is like a therapy session." Nick tried to get Kevin to spill the tea on why he left the group because of the record company, but Kevin was being tight lipped about it. He was stumbling on his words. Kevin was saying, "Yeah, I mean, yeah, Then Nick said whenever they called Kevin to try to get him back, Kevin would ask them, "Are you still with Jive? Does Barry Weiss still work with you?" I don't know if Group B cruisers caught what Nick was saying, but when I heard it the second time around while watching my video, I thought those two tidbits were interesting. I wonder what Jive and Barry Weiss were doing that it influenced Kevin to be done with Backstreet Boys at that point in time. Then Howie talked about how he'll never forget when he played the song Undone from the This Is Us album for Kevin, and how Kevin was a true supporter of Backstreet, even though he was not part of the group during that time. I really thought the next song would be Undone since it seemed like they were setting it up to be next. So I was surprised when If I Knew Then from the This Is Us album started to play. Kevin said he requested the song, so the boys get up and perform the song. So while singing, Nick is holding the towel and wiping his face with it. During the beginning of the song, Nick comes to me and he looks right at me, and together we sing, "'Cause once you do something can be undone." And he wags his finger in front of my face. Then he walks away. Then, when the chorus begins, he comes over to me and he hands me his sweaty towel. I clutch it close to me and then hold onto it the whole concert because I was paranoid if I set it down somewhere that someone would try to steal it. I remember I felt some of his damp sweat on my hand as I held it. In all my years of being a Backstreet Boys fan, I've never gotten a sweaty towel from any Backstreet Boy. I remember during Nick's All American tour, he'd toss out a towel during the song Sweat, and that riots would ensue in the crowd. I'm glad that I got my towel in peace and that I didn't have to catfight anyone to keep it. Another song Kevin said he requested was Bigger, which is a song I love since I interpret it as a song for the fans. And the music video is one of Backstreet's best, in my opinion. After the song, Kevin told a story about when he was in Japan for Chicago the Musical. Backstreet was also there shooting the music video for Bigger. As Kevin told the story, Brian and AJ acted out what happened. Kevin said he got an email from Howie asking if he was in Japan and if he wanted to go out and eat. Then Brian, without his mic, yells out, "Are you paying?" Kevin confirms that he replied with that, and I laughed because I go through the same exchange with my parents when we go out to eat. Kevin then says he loves the Bigger music video because it was raw and organic and that they shot it guerrilla style. Nick said they had to hire some people to protect them and hinted that the people they hired might have been shady. Brian also said that they almost got arrested twice because they were shooting parts of the video without permits. Then AJ said, "You ate eel, which is gross." And I think he was talking to Nick, but I inwardly gasped because I actually love eel sushi with the eel sauce. So I don't know why he thinks that's gross. He needs to try it again. Then Nick asked Brian to explain how slow motion in music videos is shot, which is where the track is played at a faster tempo so that when it's slowed down in post-production, the mouths are in sync with the lyrics being sung. They started listing music videos they shot like that, and when they got to Quit Playing Games, They started talking about Howie's nipple and his bare chest in the video. Then it led them to talking about body hair. Kevin said Howie and AJ were the only ones who had body hair and that the others were late bloomers. Howie said it's because he's Latin and that he has hairs in places he shouldn't. Then he said when he was 8 years old and he raised his hand to answer a question, he had a full on bush of underarm hair. And Nick started laughing so hard. He said, "That's some new shit." And Howie said, "Storytellers." That's why he was telling a story. And he said that he finally felt comfortable in his skin to tell the story. Then AJ said, after 25 years, he has never told that story. Brian seems to be weirded out by the whole body hair talk, and he starts to sing, "Let's get on with the show." And Kevin said, "I feel you, Brian, but I have a transition." And he tells the others to wait and that we're going deep tonight. He goes back to what Nick said about missing him, and he said again that he missed Backstreet. He didn't miss the business side and all the scheduling. He said he missed the fans and the interaction and the connection we would have together during a show. And he was proud of himself for saying that without crying. And then he said that 25 years ago, if you said to Backstreet that they'd be on a cruise, going on vacation with them, and that they could act like doofuses and the fans would still love them anyway, they wouldn't have believed it. He also said that they're excited for the new music. And at that time, I didn't catch it, but Brian sings, "Baby, don't go," from "Don't Go Breaking My Heart." And Kevin made a remark and said, "That sounds familiar." And then he goes into the countdown of the release date of the single. And he talked about how they wanted to perform it for us cruisers, but they already had deals with premiering it on radio stations, through the online streaming platforms, and premiering the music video online. And they didn't want to violate the terms of that agreement and have the song possibly leak and spoil the release of the song, so that's why they didn't perform it. Then various fans in the audience start shouting 3 words. And it took a few tries, but Kevin finally heard it and he said 3 words. And he starts singing part of it. Then he starts to tell the story to the other boys about 3 words, but Brian then starts to sing the song. I'm assuming the part he started to sing was the chorus. So Kevin lets him sing and they all join in. Then when they're done, Brian next starts to sing Passionate, the song that they got from Andy Grammer, and they all get into it. Nick is shaking his butt in his chair, and when it gets to the horn part, Nick does it, and Howie says that's Nick's favorite part. Then Nick tells us to memorize that. Then Kevin explains the 3-word story to Backstreet about how during his sneak peek event, he had multiple versions of the song on his phone, but he didn't know which was correct. So every time he would select the track, it would be AJ going 3 words. And then someone in the audience went 2 words. And then Kevin went 1 word. And then AJ went half a word. And all of them were just so amused at the whole 3 words thing. That part of the concert was my favorite. I was laughing so hard and smiling so big. Those parts are what make the cruises worth it, because during cruise concerts, they are more laid back and they're not bound to a script. It's like an improv environment where they just go with the flow. The last 2 songs they sing are Show 'Em What You're Made Of and Get Down. After the show, I take some pictures of me holding the sweaty towel I got from Mick that I will never use. The towel is white, and I'm wearing my white dress for Millennium night, so I loved that they matched. I go back to my cabin to put the towel away because I didn't want to carry it during the deck party. I also wanted to make sure it didn't get mixed with the towels in the cabin and possibly get picked up by housekeeping, so I packed it away so it was out of sight. Then I head to the Lido deck for the Millennium deck party. I quickly learned that the white dress I bought online from Dress Barn rides up as I walk, so I had to be mindful of my dress going up and over my butt as I walked. I remember for the 2011 cruise, there were rumors going around that there would be a white themed party. The rumor didn't come true that year, and I know some fans and myself were weary of having a white party because the outfits could get easily dirty. And when you mix drunk fans and alcohol, the potential to have drinks spilled onto white outfits was very high. So most of the front stage is already packed by the time I get to the Lido deck. So I decided to head to deck 11 and hang out there facing the back of the stage. I didn't have high hopes for this deck party because the previous two were all right. So the boys come out and then the DJ plays Larger Than Life. Then after Larger Than Life, the DJ plays I Want It That Way. It wasn't until Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely plays that I noticed the DJ is playing the Millennium album in order. That's when it hits me that this party is special. After that song, next is It's Gotta Be You. And I'm taken back to May 18th, 1999, when I'm 13 years old, an eighth grader at Rancho Middle School. I remember on that day I was wearing my school uniform with my green anorak from Old Navy, and in the front pocket is my copy of Backstreet Boys' Millennium album, which I got at midnight a few hours before. It was still in its shrink wrap. I brought the album to school just so I could have it near me. All these feelings and memories of past and present hit me faster than a shark attack. I'm thinking about how far I've come as a fan. When I was 13, all I wanted was to go to a Backstreet Boys concert and see them. I never imagined I'd ever get to meet them and that they'd recognize me and that some of them would follow me on social media and that Nick Carter, the guy whose poster hangs up in my room, would know me by my first name. The boys were into every song, and even though I was far away and could only see from the back, and at times the audio wasn't so good because the stage doesn't have speakers that face the back, I thought the Millennium Party was by far the best Backstreet Boys cruise deck party ever in the history of their 6 cruises. They played and performed to their most iconic album from track 1 to 12, and that was something so unique, and I'm so honored to have been part of something so beautiful. By the time Perfect Fan started to play, I started to tear up and cry. I was remembering my mom on top of all the Backstreet memories I was having. And then after Millennium is done playing, the DJ continues to play more Backstreet Boys songs like Hot, Hot, Hot. Once all the feels and emotions have subsided, the party continues. My feet are hurting like hell. I try to keep my eyes on Nick to see if he'll come out and take selfies. At one point, my hopes are raised when I see him come off the stage and he's shirtless and he makes it up the stairs to deck 11 where I was. It's on my Nick Carter to do bucket list to take a picture with him shirtless. So I follow him to where he walks and he goes into the disabled section to take pictures with the fans there. I was hoping he'd pull a Kevin like Kevin did during the We've Got It Going Con night and stay and take pictures with everyone. But after he takes pictures with everyone in the disabled section, he then leaves and goes back down to the Lido deck. I continue to follow him, hoping he'll take more selfies. I remember while I was following him, he walked by a huge line, and the line was for Howie. And he stopped by and said hi to Howie and took a picture with the fan with Howie. And I thought he was going to copy Howie and start a line next to him, but he doesn't. For a split second, I was torn between joining Howie's line versus following Nick. But since Nick is my favorite, I decided to gamble on him and continue to follow him. He goes back in stage and doesn't form a line. I didn't catch a selfie with any Backstreet Boy that night, which I think sucks because my white dress that I was wearing was the second best outfit I had after my Sailor Jupiter dress. Since I missed out on Howie's line and Nick wasn't doing anything, I sat down on the Lido deck near the side of the stage to rest my feet. I remember the DJ played Nick and Knight's If You Want It, which surprised me. I didn't think he'd have any Nick and Knight songs. I also did some people watching and I remember seeing some interesting outfits. I remember I saw one fan wearing the tallest heels ever, and she was standing on a tiny platform. I was mesmerized because my feet were already in pain and I was wearing flats. And this girl was wearing probably like 10-inch heels like it was nothing. So, since it seemed like nothing was going on, I go down to deck 9 and sit near the casino. I didn't think anything exciting would happen on the Lido deck, and then I hear AJ start to perform London from his solo album. Since my feet hurt, I didn't feel like going back up. I remember I was in the middle of writing a status on Facebook when I hear the beginning of Blow Your Mind and Nick starting to sing it. I immediately halt my typing and hustle my aching feet back to the Lido deck. I was able to get to the side of the stage right, and I was rocking out as Nick performed that song. Then Nick and AJ continued to sing along to a few songs. Just when I thought the party couldn't get better, it was like I had been to 3 Backstreet concerts in a row, starting with the concert in the lounge, followed by the Millennium album performance during the deck party, and ending with Nick and AJ performing their solo songs along with other songs. The last song that is played at the deck party is Closing Time by Semisonic. So then they leave, and I'm hungry, so I go to the Lido dining room to see what is there to eat. Unfortunately, breakfast is not out like it was during the previous night, and the only food available was pizza, and there was already a long line. Although my feet hurt like hell, I suffer through it and get some pizza. Since the first event on Sunday isn't until 2:30 p.m. for the Group B cruisers, I had the opportunity to sleep in and relax. I will go ahead and end right here. The next episode is going to focus on the last full day on the cruise. Thank you again for listening to Jocelyn Hart's Boy Bands.